Hey, everybody, welcome to a Spider-Man Noir after show discussion podcast. Don't know what we'll call it right now. Maybe we'll figure something out during this episode. I don't know. Nolan had the bright idea of calling it the Noir Hour. I don't know yet. I don't know. We'll maybe brainstorm after the show is over. But if you've ever watched anything me and Nolan have done, uh, we did an entire season series for the Bel Air show, the reboot of Fresh Prince of Bel Air. So it's great to have you on another show and to talk about this new series called Spider-Man Noir or Spider Noir.
Spider-Noir, I believe.
Spider-Noir. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should probably know the name of the show that we're talking about. Anyways, of course, Spider-Noir is a character that has existed for some time within the. Oh, that's pretty cool. I just Googled Spider-Noir and it rained in the Google search. So
Oh,
that's a
wow.
pretty cool tie-in. But Spider Noir has existed for a while now. I don't know exactly when it came out, but it's been existing as a comic for a while, and then of course it gained a lot of popularity in the Spider-Verse movie a
Hmm.
few years back. And so now, of course, based on that popularity, it's spawned its own television show on Amazon Prime. And I say television show, but all the episodes are out right now, so you can technically just watch it like a really, really long movie if you wanted to. But we're going to go episode by episode on this show and talk about some of the ins and outs of each episode, what we thought about them. And yeah, you're just gonna, hang out with us for an hour and, chill out and talk about Spider Noir. So let's get right into it. I watched the show in color because you can watch the show in color or in black and white. And Leon, what color did you watch the show in?
I looked at it in black and white,
Okay.
especially since it said you can kind of change on the fly. But
Yeah,
I figured if I liked the show enough, I would go and rewatch it again in color
sure.
after we get through all the episodes.
Yeah, that's a thing you can do, absolutely. And that might actually drive more viewership of the show.
Mhm.
Excuse me. That might drive some more viewership of the show, which would be pretty cool, and get it more attention. Because I think overall, I watch it in color because I'm basic like that, and I like color. But even in color, it's like toned in such a way that like really exudes like old-fashioned movies. Really like
Mhm.
really strong Technicolor vibes, Dick Tracy kind of vibes to the color palette that they've chosen for this film. So it's not just regular color; it's more like heightened color. But I'll probably watch it in color. You can watch it in black and white, and then that'll be how we interpret each of the show, and maybe that'll affect our opinion of it. But from the jump, I thought that this show is doing it right, doing a good job introducing the characters, the setting, and the overall general story in terms of kind of who the main players are. So I think it's off to a good start. What were your kind of initial impressions of the show, Leon?
Like initial, like when you say, well, I guess when you say initial, are you talking about like just my
Yeah,
knee-jerk reaction after watching it, or like the first
yeah,
few
yeah.
minutes?
Like, did you, just basically at a, basic level, did you like what you saw? Did you think the show was good based on the first episode?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think it's worth a watch, especially if you're a comic book fan. I think it is. I think anything live action Spider-Man, they know is going to get, eyes on it, so you can't really half-ass it. So it's the production of it, and like I said, the cinema quality of it, at least for sure in the black and white, has felt really, really spot on for me. I mean, obviously, when we get to the story and stuff, there are some things that kind of don't really agree with or whatever, storyline wise and actor wise. But yeah, overall, it's been a good little ride. I've actually seen two episodes because I wasn't paying attention, and
Hmm.
it kind of rolled into the next
Yeah,
episode, and
right.
and I was like, oh, I'm watching stuff. So let me just go ahead. So I already started watching it. I watched the second one, but I said I'm not touching anything else until we start moving between episodes. So
Right.
I am a little ahead on things, but got the notes here in front of me to kind of stay on task with
Hmm.
episode one.
There you go. Overall, I thought the first episode was a good, strong first episode. I think that they stepped out on the right foot with this, both in tone and story and what it's trying to convey. It did not feel cheap. It felt like, okay, they're putting, good money behind this. They want to have a good presentation. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but, for the most part, I thought, okay, good strong start. I'm buying this. I'm gonna watch it all the way through, not just for this show, but because I want to find out where the story goes. And yeah, I'm sufficiently intrigued. So let's talk a little bit about the actual story. At the beginning of the first episode, we're introduced to Spider-Noir. He's flying through the city, shooting his webs, swinging around town, and we basically get the whole kind of background story of who he is and, try and catch people up through, basically the first 5 minutes of the show through sort of a montage, if you will, of different sort of scenes and events throughout his life. And the key thing we learn during this sort of intro is about the love of his life, Ruby, who died tragically. We find out in sort of she drowns in a car accident. Well, I'm sure learn about more about that throughout the series. And we
Hmm.
learn that she's essentially the Uncle Ben of this universe, giving our Spider-Man or this Spider-Noir his great power and great responsibility line.
Yeah.
What'd you think of that opening? Pretty cool, huh? I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, I obviously I didn't read the comic book. I know you kind of touched on that earlier that he was introduced in comics. I was only introduced to him into Enter the Spider-Verse, and I think now that I'm actually seeing him in his universe, it's it's even more crazy to me. It doesn't really stand out, I guess, in Spider-Verse because it's like we have all these different variations, and it's like, okay, cool, we have all these different Spider-Mans from different dimensions. But now that
Hmm.
I see him in his universe, I'm just like Spider-Man would really be swinging around in a trench coat. Like to me, it's like, and with the hat on too. It's just,
Yeah, that thing
but
must be
it fits
bolted
that.
on.
Yeah, it fits like that fashion profile, that era, and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's as you said, it's very top quality cinema. Um, I think it laid the groundwork. It's a very adult-oriented show.
Yep.
Obviously, you have Nicolas Cage, who is a much older actor,
Right.
playing this fellow. So I mean, you can't dumb him down. There's not enough CGI, I'm pretty sure, in this budget to make him younger.
No.
So you have to take him for where he's at in this part of his life, in real life, and adapt it to the actual show. And I think it lines up. We find out that he's a private eye
Hmm.
investigator. And I feel like, which I didn't really watch a lot of those Dick Tracy style shows from back in the Gap, but I feel like most of the time, like when people were hiring those PIs, it was always like this older kind of, wouldn't say sleazy or so, but it was kind of like this kind of erratic guy that it was like, yeah, you kind of built for this type of role. And I think he kind of fits that mold of what I've seen in previous works like this. So all in all, I think he's a good fit. He is Ben Riley, I believe,
Right.
because
Hmm.
if I remember reading an article, apparently they couldn't get rights to Peter Parker or something.
Hmm.
So they had to use the other Spider-Man name, Ben Riley, which is a clone, if I remember correctly. Ben
Hmm.
Riley is the cloned Peter Parker, and he became Scarlet Spider
Hmm.
in the current universe Spider-Man or something like that. I might be wrong. Comic book fans out there, don't kill me. I do know Ben
Hmm.
Riley is Scarlet Spider. And I know he's a clone. I'm just not sure of how he fits into the timeline and whatnot. And I believe that's what I read. They couldn't use the Peter Parker name, so they could use Ben Riley and chose that as his name for Spider Noir.
That's interesting. Must be something to do with Marvel, I would imagine, and I guess the TV rights and
Yeah,
something, right? Because I mean, and this is like a Marvel, really a property or Marvel Sony property, but it's a Marvel property, right? So you'd think like, okay, Marvel would be on Disney, but
mhm,
nope, not everything Marvel is Disney. So because Sony owns the Spider-Man universe, basically.
yeah,
But yeah, that's
yeah.
interesting. I did not know that. So let's talk about the Nick Cage of it all. Yeah, he is an older gentleman. He's 62. And according to what I could Google, there is no canonical age for Spider Noir. In the comics, he's depicted as a young adult. In the Spider-Verse films, he was depicted as like a 30, 40 something. Again, he's always like a jaded character. So, it can be any age. And it was initially sort of a little bit, I guess, the cognitive dissonance of it all, of trying to like accept the fact that we're now being served a very older Spider-Man character. Even in the Spider-Verse movies and even in the live action films, we've seen older Peter Parkers, but not this old. So it's just kind of
Yeah,
like a little bit like, oh my gosh, we're getting into senior citizen excuse me. Like, oh my gosh, we're getting into senior citizen territory on
right.
these superheroes now. And it's interesting to see, I'll be interested again to watch it, but it does take a little getting used to, I think.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's the inconsistency that that's kind of annoying me early on in this show is that obviously, I mean, Nicolas Cage, as we already stated, is a much older actor. This Spider-Man is going to be a much older Spider-Man, but we can't take away the fact that he still has all the superhuman strengths and feats that Spider-Man has. And it's annoying for me that he's trying to act as this old. Well, I mean, again, it is Nicolas Cage. He as from a limitation perspective, he is going to act like an old man, but it's like that's Spider-Man can never act like that. Like, and as we see as the episode goes on, like we see him early on get hit by a car and he's like flatlined and he's like knocked out and gets up all slow and groggy and stuff. And then next thing you know, we see him later on in the show, fighting somebody or whatever. So it's kind of like that kind of inconsistency as far as somebody that has an idea, not necessarily of Spider-Noir, but just Spider um people in general and their powers. I think that's kind of something that could potentially hold back the show unless he gets back into. I mean, obviously that's what this show is about, him being Spider Noir. So yeah, he'll eventually don the suit again and fight crime or whatever. And I'm just hoping then that trickles into his everyday persona versus, him just trying to seem and act and perform as an older gentleman. But again, I understand the limitations of the actual actor himself. So I think that's the only thing that I'm kind of like, yeah, Nicolas Cage, he's good, but is he right? Like for this specific role, was it smart enough to have him as old as he is, as he's been depicted in the show. So we'll be interesting to see how that carries out over the next few episodes, or at least the rest of the series anyway. I just hope that that age doesn't really his acting and his age himself, his real world age limits the character itself and what it's able to do because the power that Spider-Man normally has.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna think once we kind of see him don the mask and do the Spider-Man stuff, it's all gonna kind of wash away. But until then, and I liked him playing off the old nature. I think it's partially him maybe being just rusty, right? Because we see him earlier on in a scene where he could scale a building with his abilities, but he chooses instead to take the stairs.
Yeah.
And then he kind of like
Yeah.
just kind of, sort of like as a normal person would kind of get over a small obstacle, and it'll just see him kind of rolling around. And you can obviously tell, he still has the ability to be Spider-Man. He's just choosing to keep that ability suppressed because ever since Ruby died, he's just kind of been really kind of out of it. He doesn't want to be Spider-Man. He doesn't want to use the powers. He doesn't want to, have the great responsibility that comes with having the powers. And so he purposely just doesn't use them. And of course, that will change because they show a preview at the end of the episode showing like all the
Mhm.
cool stuff that's going to happen. But yeah, it'll be fun to have him when he has his powers. And like I said, once he's doing Spider-Man stuff, I don't think we'll care because it's just cool to see Spider-Man do Spider-Man stuff. But yeah, until then, yeah, it's weird to see, you know, old man Spider-Man being having a hard time getting around.
I mean,
But
I'm not gonna lie. Initially, I thought it was something tied up with maybe his particular uniform, because just like you said, you noted that was something that stood out to me when he walked up the stairs and he just kind of crawls over the little barrier or whatever into the balcony and everything. And I'm just like, come on now. Like, Spider-Man would not be like that flabbergasted. Your muscle structure, the that these that spider bite gave you is just not going to age. You have to, basically what you said, you have to force yourself to act in this older age person. But in this case, you're actually dealing with an older actor. that that's probably how he would scale it anyway. So that, I think that again, that's just the annoyance for me, because with not just Spider-Man, let's Watchmen, for example, right? I'm pretty sure you've seen that. Um, and you had the what was his name? He's one of my favorite guys on there, the comedian. And
Right.
when he gets killed in his apartment or whatever, like he's old in age. That's what they said. Like he's like an older guy, but he was built like a linebacker. Like,
Hmm.
because those things don't stop working just because you get older. Like you
No.
might slow down a little bit, but you're not gonna be a 62-year-old man if your age is 62. Like you're still probably gonna be 30s, mid 30s or so, like that, like body wise, physicality wise. So that was just the annoyance of me, like being able to see older superheroes in other mediums and then just kind of seeing this. And I was like, I'm not going to try to think too much into it. But that is, for the most part, the only real annoyance I had from this first episode. So I want to make sure I put that on wax.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Talking about let's talk about the world a little bit. I thought they did a great job doing the world building, right? Because this is supposed to take place in the 1930s, and they did a lot of good effort. Obviously, this is shot on a back lot, right? Because they need to control the environment. But they have
Mhm.
all the old fake, all the old cars. They
Automobiles, yep.
great costumes. I thought really like they did a great job with the world building. It's very
Oh, yeah.
authentic.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely agree with that. The everybody reading newspaper, like that's how you get your news, or
That's
the
right. Old
radio.
school.
Yeah, I think all of that accuracy is very well received. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good point to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as sort of the characters that Spider-Man fights in this first episode, we get some super-powered individuals. One is a fire character, kind of like a pyro style, and he is very briefly in the beginning, but I thought the character effects and the special effects on him were well executed. And then he has a fight later on with essentially a Sandman type. I don't know if it's the Sandman of this universe, but obviously
Yeah,
he can
that
turn
they
into
said his
sand.
name. They said
Did
his
they?
name is, yeah. I can't think of what. Let me see. Let me Google real quick. Sandman's name.
But we have, two superhero powered fights, and we have hints at more superpowered fights. So it's cool to see that in a show again with, I'm
Mhm.
sure, a more limited budget than obviously the movies, but it'll be cool to see, different superheroes with different powers and what they can do with, the television budget.
Yeah, Flint Marco. They did
Oh,
say
so
his
it is
name was
Flint
Flint
Marco.
Marco. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Great. Yeah. So I'll be wondering if they're going to go into the origin stories of any of these characters, or it's just going to be, nope, they all just exist, and that's how they are. That's one
Yeah.
thing, it's nice with this movie or this show, I guess. It's not bothering even to do an origin story, really. I mean, again,
Yeah.
besides that little sort of intro in the beginning, you don't really learn much at all about Spider-Man's background. It's just he's existed, he's been a hero, people have relied on him, and now he's stopped for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the recent Superman movie. We didn't need another baby Clark, falling from the sky. We just go right into Superman being Superman.
And something also to make a distinction of is, even though the show is called Spider-Noir, in that universe he's called the Spider. That's
Is
what
he?
they, yeah, that's what they call him. Like the guy that works at the newspaper, the black guy that he was talking to throughout the beginning of it. He was always trying to tell him like, "Hey, man, we need you back. The city could use the spider again." And he
Yeah,
specifically kept calling him the spider. So that's
right.
that's what I'm thinking that they have him pinned as in that universe. Probably
Yeah,
another licensing thing.
I wonder if they have like a Jonah Jameson character in this show. Do they call the newspaper the Daily Bugle?
Didn't catch that. I did not catch that one.
Yeah, be
Yeah,
interesting if
that would be
that's
something I'll
also.
pay attention to. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, so we were introduced also, in addition to kind of bad characters, we were introduced to the big bad, I guess, of the series, or at least of the season, which is going to be Silvermane, which is a big time gangster in the city. And he does some pretty despicable stuff, like killing a dude with a knife and cutting his throat. I thought that was pretty bold of the show and kind of made me think about the adult nature of this show, right? Because,
Oh, well,
again,
he was the other PI.
right. Yeah, he
Yeah,
kills the other
he was the other
PI.
PI. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this is definitely a show made for adults, or at least older teenagers. And it's definitely leaning closer to R, I would say, with regard to its content. And I wonder what your thoughts are about that. Do you think that they went a little bit too far with going kind of the adult route? Because this character was introduced in essentially a kids movie, and I think
Right.
a lot of kids are going to want to watch this because it's a comic book movie. But it's got some swear words, it's got some pretty realistic violence. What are your thoughts?
Um, well, I mean, truth be told, I feel like most comic book movies should have like a higher rating
Mm-hmm.
for, I mean, because I think most, if you read the comics, the actual original comics that they base a lot of these movies and shows off of, they're not as lighthearted and kid friendly as filmography would lead you to believe. Like there are a lot of
Sure.
cuss words, there's a lot of blood, bones being broken, obviously a lot of violence in general because
Yeah.
that's what super guys, the heroes do. They beat the bad guys up and put them in jail, or depending on the medium you're
Mm-hmm.
watching, like a Spawn or a Blade or something like that, they kill them. So I think it's good to have a adult Spider-Man, I guess you can say, because if we have the Peter Parker in the MCU and whatever the Sony whatever was when you had can't think of his name, but the early 2000s Spider-Man. God, I can't. Tobey Maguire. Yeah, when you had that original Spider-Man and stuff, I think that was very kid friendly, and they've kind of set the precedent for that to be the everybody Spider-Man. But I mean, to your argument, he was introduced in a graphical kid type show or movie, but at the same time, I feel like Into the Spider-Verse was also very it had moments that wasn't very kid friendly either, right? Because you did have Peter Parker get killed by the Kingpin in
Right.
Into the Spider Verse. So then that's how you get Miles Morales to become that universe of Spider Man and things of that nature. So not to get too far off subject, I think that this is good. I think it's on a medium that is also more adult oriented because when you think of Amazon, you think of the Boys, you
Mm-hmm.
think of
Sure.
Invincible, and all of these superhero shows that they already have are already very adult oriented with adult themes, a lot of blood, a lot of fighting. Um, yeah, I think it just kind of fits into the mold of what they usually depict with anything that is superhero-esque on their platform. So don't really have an issue with it, but I can definitely see how some people would, or some people would get sidetracked or just caught off guard completely thinking that this was something that they could, hey kids, go pop some popcorn, get some
Mm-hmm.
candy, let's kick up. And it's like, no, that's not what this is. So
Yeah.
I can definitely see those scenarios.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. And again, I'm not against an adult Spider-Man. I'm not against anything adult related. Go R, hard R for all I
Mhm.
care. And
Yeah.
especially, but I think I don't remember the advertising being explicitly sort of pointing at this being more for adult audiences. It just felt like, oh, here's a Spider-Man show in a noir, 30s setting. And so I just hope that, they don't get any angry emails. I mean, they probably will. I just hope they don't get any backlash that's negative towards the character or the show that distracts from the quality of the show based on the fact that it is a little bit more violent than obviously your average Spider-Man property. You know, I get it. People die in the universe, and people have died in the Spider-Man movies, but they haven't died this gruesomely, or
Yeah.
this graphically. The level of graphic violence is pretty high, at least in this first episode. In that one scene, and there was another guy who got shot, and you saw him on the morgue and the bullet holes. But that just surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just something to consider if you haven't seen it yet, and you don't know why you're watching this show. Just be careful. If you don't show it to the young guns, I'd say keep it 13 and up. Consider the show at least PG-13,
Yeah.
if not R. But depending on your sort of tolerance toward that kind of thing. Otherwise, though, the only kind of other comment I thought about with regard to things maybe I didn't like about this first episode was kind of a lack of a clear direction in terms of where it's really going. They obviously have to establish a lot in this first episode. We but we don't really know what is kind of the overall, where's the story going, right? We know
Yeah.
that there's obviously a bad guy. There's this woman who, you know, Spider-Noir took some pictures of, and now she's going to, I guess, partner with him or hire him. So, we see that that is something, foreshadowing what's going to happen later on in the later on in the show. Obviously, the kind of mission, I guess, that's being set up for episode 2 is to find her missing bodyguard or whatnot. But, in terms of where the kind of story arc is going or this season is going, it wasn't really, I guess, established. I'm not saying a show has to establish everything on the first episode, but I
Yeah.
would say if there would, one complaint or one thing I would have maybe liked a little bit more better established is where is this kind of going, right? Obviously, the preview for the season hints at a resurgence and return to form for Spider-Man or Spider Noir in this universe, but I guess to what end? To take down Silvermane, right? Obviously, that's probably the going to be the eventual goal by the end of the season, if not the series, or maybe a new big bad next season. Who knows? Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah, I would have liked that established a little bit more in the first episode, but beyond that, overall, I thought it was a good first episode.
Maybe that is what they're establishing, that everything is in a bit disarray. Like we have Ben
Mm-hmm.
Riley, who's not sure he wants to be Spider-Man. We have
Right.
obviously him and his PI business is doing really badly right now. You have the uprising of this Silvermane character and the people that actually know that he was a spider, hoping that he comes back and he's, pushing against that. And then, he's taking on these odd jobs, following people around to get these pictures to try to make ends meet or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, to me, it's not really establishing a plot that we can kind of see like, okay, this is what this show is going to be about. But I think it's definitely laying the groundwork that there's a lot of stuff that's like not in order with this guy at
Mm-hmm.
this point. And seeing that the show is about him being Spider-Man, the obvious thing is that's what he's not trying to be. That
Mm-hmm.
he's fighting that, with the flashbacks and the beginning kind of laying the groundwork on that. And the reason why that traumatic incident that has made him shy away from it. So yeah, I think that actually might be exactly what they want it to seem like for
Yeah.
the watchers. So
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Another thing too to kind of point out is that they're dropping the entire series or this entire season in one go.
yeah,
I think it's awesome. I mean, I don't care if a show is dropped all at once or one done week by week, but I do wonder if perhaps the decision to drop the entire series in one go is perhaps a maybe a concerning uh, step taken by Amazon because they haven't done that normally. Normally they've released all the other shows week by week. The Boys, Invincible, all their other kind of superhero properties are released on a weekly basis. So it does make me wonder as if perhaps there isn't a whole lot of confidence in Amazon that people will kind of watch the entire series, in a week by week format, right? Like they watch the first episode, maybe the second episode, and then they kind of lose interest. So in order to kind of stem that tide, they put all at once. What are your thoughts?
Um, I was gonna say, like, I feel like they did release shows all at once, but then I was thinking back, I'm like, no, that was Netflix. Netflix
Yes, Netflix was famous for that.
back in the gap would just release an entire season of something on like a Thursday night, Friday morning, and you could watch it, binge it over the weekend. But now they've gotten savvy to releasing 2 or 3 episodes and then milking out everything to keep that subscription
Yep.
model going for their service. So um, I think it could be a little bit of both. It could be let's drop this, let's see the kind of reviews we get on it all
Hmm.
at once, because if everybody has everything and can look over it and watch it, they can let us know immediately within a week if we have something here. But if we drop it week by week and we see that audience decline, go down, because I feel like that's happened with like Amazon's Rings of Power. Like that
Hmm.
was they were releasing these shows week by week, but I can remember I think might have been the second season, like there was like a stark decline in interest between those first couple episodes and the last episode in the that particular season. So it could be a little bit of both. It could be like, hey, let's see if we might not have something. We might do have something, but if we release everything at once and give everybody the big picture, then we can see the feedback much sooner to let us know if this is a hit or not, and the numbers of people watching it versus watching that basically dwindle down and die, and then we have nothing because people have lost all the interest to even care about wrapping up the season. So I think that might be the approach they're taking with this particular thing. Again, it's Spider-Man. Like people are gonna watch it. Like as long as he's swinging around fighting bad guys, he could be in he could be in 2080. He could be in 1974. As long as Spider-Man is shooting webs and swinging around New York City beating up people, it's gonna get views. So I think there will be a season two, but I think it also depends on how this looks going into the last episode, right? If
Hmm.
he beats all, if Silvermane is like the big bad guy and taking him out makes everybody scatter, maybe this might be it. And then at the same time, like it's Nicolas Cage. Like as we already said, he's already the older Spider-Man, right? So they could just be they could be saying like, hey, this is a one-off thing because our lead guy is old. He's only going to get older as we if we shoot more seasons of this. So what can we really squeeze from this orange with the plot at hand? Unless they make a younger Spider-Noir and go back like a prequel or something like that. So I think there's a lot of ways to tackle that particular question. But if I had to put my money on something, I would say there will be a season two.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I think, there is enough in what's going on here to warrant it. And yeah, I hope there is. No, I think that anything Spider-Man related is going to probably be well received. And I think there is not a lust for, but definitely a desire for good quality comic book television. Maybe there is Superman or sorry, superhero fatigue on the big screen, right? We're seeing less and less interest in mainstream movies that have or feature superheroes. But I think on TV, there's still a lot of passion there, from other series like The Penguin. I know that was very well received,
Oh, that was a great
and
show. Yeah.
I haven't watched it yet, but I do need to get
Really?
on that.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah. That's an excellent
too
show.
much good TV out there to watch. I know Daredevil, the new season on Disney Plus, was well received for the most part.
I haven't finished watching. I saw like the first episode or two, and I just kind
Hmm.
of got sidetracked. Haven't gotten back to it.
See, I'm telling you, there's too much good TV. What else? In terms of super television, I think Vision Quest is coming up for Disney Plus. So yeah, I think a demand and a desire to watch superheroes on the small screen, and that won't go away. And so I think you're definitely going to see at least another season, maybe two, of Spider-Man or Spider-Noir. I don't really know how long the stories are intended to last, obviously, but most of the times when they create these shows, they're usually creating them on like a 5 season arc. That's what
Mhm.
showrunners and the show originators usually do. They create a Bible that includes, what's happening in each season. They break down the first season by episode, and then they break down what would happen in each season over the course of an entire series. And that's how they sort of pitch the show to investors and whoever wants to foot the bill. So that's how I'm sure there's a plan for at least a 5 season run, if not more, if the show's like super duper successful. And I do wonder if this show is proven successful, will it then perhaps spawn even more side stories with other alternate universe spider people? For instance, what is it, Penny Parker from the kind of anime
Mm,
universe? I'd love to see an anime with Penny Parker in it. I think that'd be really cool. Spider Ham, you
Spider Pig.
know,
I was about to say, yeah, Spider Ham. That's what his name
yeah, that would
is.
be fun. Little cartoon, like Looney Tune style cartoons. I could see that happening. Um, older adult Spider-Man, although, I think with the new, whether it's the new Spider-Man movie or some of the new Marvel Universe movies. I think we could see older Peter Parkers in those as well. And then, of course, obviously the sequel to, was it Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? What's the third one coming out? Beyond the Spider-Verse, I think
Uh,
it's called, or something like that.
yeah,
So,
possibly.
yeah, we have the third one coming out, so that's going to be exciting to watch. So, yeah, I don't think, superhero fatigue is, setting in so much so that this show would not be popular enough to garner a second season. And I'm excited to watch the rest of it, and we'll go at the pace of an episode a week, for the sake of doing this show. But if I weren't doing this podcast, I'd probably just binge watch it over the course of like 2 or 3 days and, get it out of my system. But for us, we'll do it on a week by week basis. We'll do it old school, as they say.
Sounds good to me. Sounds. I mean,
Awesome.
I'm here for it. Here
All
for it.
right. Great. All right, Leon, any last words you have on this particular Spider-Man show before we sign off?
Um, Not at all. I mean, again, I have high hopes for it. As I said, I've already seen the second episode, and I will just say that it's pretty good.
Yeah,
And I'm just hoping that the rest of the season is kind of building upon the little foundational blocks that they're making about the storyline. So
right,
definitely
right.
looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is a mystery there, and I was gonna say one last thing. I did like the secretary character. I think she's kind
Mm,
of, she's funny. She's got good spunk, and she doesn't take, Riley's stuff.
yeah.
She isn't putting up with any of his stuff. But yeah, all right, great. Well, this has been the first episode of the Spider Hour, the Spider Noir Hour, Spider Chat, Noir Chat. I was actually asking Chat GPT for suggestions on how to
Mm,
title the show. Let's see here. Let me see what they come up with. I'll present them to you, and you can tell me what you think about them.
okay.
Um, let's see here. Spider Man. Okay, so they suggested After the Web Goes Dark, Spider Noir Case Files, and the Daily Bugle After Dark.
And
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I felt none of those are really catchy. Like, I mean, they
No.
they they clearly are spin-offs of things in the universe, but it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not. It's we need to go back to the drawing board on some of those.
They got another one here, Into the Noir Verse. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. I think for now it'll just be Spider Noir after show. And if we think of something more creative, then great. We'll change the name of the show during this run. But right now, yeah, welcome. Thanks for watching the Spider Noir after show. Join us next week and we'll talk about episode 2. All right. For Leon Nolan, I'm Dave Murphy, and we'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody.
Peace.